May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer.
Amen.
Please be seated. So today we're observing All Saints' Day, one of the 7 principal feasts of the Episcopal Church. And All Saints' Day is a fixed feast, as it occurs on a certain day, November 1st. And so the first thing you'll notice is today is not November 1st. So that's different. A fixed feast is different from a movable feast. And you probably all remember at least the title of Ernest Hemingway's 1920s memoir of when he was in Paris writing about his memories of being a journalist and a writer. It was called A Movable Feast. And its title actually came from this idea in the church that we have fixed feasts, like All Saints' Day, on November 1st, and we have movable feasts that are all set on Easter. And you know, Easter, in the West, there's an Eastern Easter and a Western Easter, but Easter in the West is the first Sunday that falls after March 21st. And then all of the other feasts are set on that and based on that. And there's another factor that affects principal feasts, and that is rites today. A principal feast can be moved, transferred, without the permission of the bishop to the next following Sunday. So we moved our celebration of All Saints' Day to today, November 7th. So is anybody still with me here? Let me hear the voice of the church triumphant and the church militant. So why does this matter? I know it sounds like a lot of arcane, historical, theological detail, maybe for monastics or for scholars sitting in dark libraries with little tiny lights on a single spot. But I think that our celebration of All Saints' Day and all of our religious holidays are actually incredibly important, both to our emotional and physical health and to our very survival as a community and as a civilization. And I know that's a really big claim, so let me step back a little bit and explain. The Diocese of Rhode Island held its annual diocesan convention yesterday in Providence, or not in Providence, it was online. The bishop and some of the staff, diocesan staff, were in Providence, but we were all located wherever our computers were. We were on the interwebs. And so this is the second one in 2 years, second one in a row that we've had online. And while we've all learned to be flexible, really all of us, we've learned to be flexible and resilient during COVID, I think we've kind of reached a point where we need to see each other face to face. We need to celebrate our joys. We need to grieve our deep losses. And we need to walk through the rhythm of our days together. Human beings yearn for our lives to have order and structure and seasonal rhythms so that we can anticipate and prepare as a community. It keeps us ready for all kinds of responses. I mean, what would we have been as a community and as a nation if we weren't ready for the pandemic in these past years? It's our bonds and our rhythms that have helped us to do that. And we're starved for it. We're thirsty for it. All of us know, Psalm 42, I believe, where the psalmist says in the old King James language, "Like as the heart desireth the water brook, so longeth my soul unto thee." We're thirsty for our connection like the deer is thirsty for the cool water of the living stream. We're thirsty and long for our mutual connection in community through God. And that's how we make meaning out of our lives. We need to be part of an unfolding story, the story of our community living with God in our midst. And the fact is, that's the role that Scripture, and that's the role that our religious holidays and all of our cultural holidays have played in our lives for millennia. Whether we're Roman Catholic or Episcopalian or Reformed Jews or Orthodox Jews or Muslims of any denomination, our saints' days and holidays and festivals are rooted in the story of our faith and they gain meaning and relevance to us as they are embedded in our local customs and culture. And we'll talk more about how specific holidays in our faith came to be celebrated at the times that they are now on a different Sunday. But for now, let's just recognize our human need to be a part of an unfolding story. We yearn to be a part of something that is ordered in seasons of weather, sports, foods, gatherings, and punctuated with major events. Who's ever said any of these things? We'll get that done before Christmas. We'll get that done by the end of the, that's actually a deal lawyer wouldn't say we'll get that done by Christmas. They'd say we'll get that done by New Year's for the tax year. We'll see you after Easter. Let's plan that for summer vacation before pledge season starts up in the fall. Or next year in Jerusalem. So how do we celebrate All Saints' Day, this fixed principal feast that we can transfer to the following Sunday without the bishop's permission? We wear white vestments, and you see that the altar is dressed in our white hangings, and we have the pall on the chalice is white. We pray our mythology, all of those among us remembering from the church community those who have gone on to God since All Saints' Day last year. And praying for our loved ones who have died is actually a really interesting part of our traditional All Saints' Day celebration, because All Saints' Day is in the middle of the All-Hallowtide Triduum. Triduum is a church word for a 3-day period. We usually hear it and use it in connection with Good Friday, Holy Saturday, and Easter Sunday. But All-Hallowtide, Halloween, or All Hallows Eve, All Saints' Day, and All Souls' Day that follows it is another Triduum. And Hallow, you remember, is an Old English word for saint. So when we say Halloween or All Hallows Eve, we're really saying All Saints' Eve in that Triduum. Pope Boniface IV established All Saints' Day around 609 AD as a celebratory remembrance for those saints who had been martyred in their discipleship to Jesus. And November 2nd, the third day of the Triduum, that's All Souls' Day. And that's when we honor the souls of the living dead, or not the living dead, but the faithful dead, which the church calls the Church Triumphant. And we, the faithful, are known as the Church Militant. And that's not because we're warlike, that's because we're still marching around. And when we pray for those connected to our community who have died since All Saints' Day, we're praying for the souls of the faithful departed, the Church Triumphant, not saints or martyrs. So the necrology is actually more of an All Souls' Day celebration and recognition than it is an All Saints' Day recognition. But that's part of how we do it here locally and in the Episcopal Church. We also celebrate All Saints' Day with our gospel readings. Last year, for example, we read the Beatitudes. That's one of the readings in the 3-year cycles. And the Beatitudes are all about blessedness. And today, we read about Lazarus, whom Jesus raises from the dead. Lazarus the name comes from what's closer in the Hebrew and the Aramaic to Eleazar, which means God helped. And Lazarus is honored as a saint by Roman Catholics, Eastern Orthodox, and even some provinces in the Church of England, or in the Anglican Church, including the Church of England, as the one God helped up from the dead. And Lazarus' sisters, Mary and Martha, they implore Jesus to come earlier than he had come, and they even scold him a little when he finally gets to Bethany, saying, if you had just come earlier, Lazarus, our brother, would not have died. And they're all the saints, even with that scolding. There's always more to the story than we read in our little gospel readings for a Sunday. And the reading just before this, what's happened is there has been a miracle. We see it today. We see the fulfillment of it. But this is where the fifth gospel helps us out, the land itself, to tell us what's really happening. Mary and Martha have gone down from the top of Mount Scopus at Bethany. They've gone all the way down in the Jordan Valley, a full day's walk to the Jordan River near Qumran. And they've gone to Jesus 4 days earlier than he finally shows up. And they say, our brother Lazarus is sick. You need to come right away. Because Jesus loved Lazarus. He's very much a part of that family. Jesus said this is not a sickness that results in death. This is a sickness that is there for God to be glorified, so that you may see the glory of God. And we heard that today in the gospel. We heard that today in the gospel in the words that some of the crowd said. They said, isn't Jesus the one who cured the man born blind? They want us to be thinking about that, because remember, the man born blind in the Gospel of John is the one where the crowd is saying, why is this man born blind? Is it the fault of his parents? Is it the fault of the society? Why is he born blind? And Jesus says the reason he's born blind is for God's glory to be shown forth. And so when that's linked to us today, we're supposed to be thinking about that. And so Jesus tells Mary and Martha, when they go down into the Jordan Valley, he says, this is not a sickness that results in death. This is so God can be glorified. And so, even though they scold him, and even though Jesus comes 4 days late, he raises up Lazarus, and Lazarus is recognized as a saint whom God helped, and the sisters Mary and Martha are as well. We also celebrate All Saints' Day with some of our best saint hymns, including my personal favorite, hymn 293. I sing a song of the saints of God. And we'll sing that as our recessional hymn today. And remember, she who sings well prays twice, so don't forget that part. And in the spirit of our thirst, of our hunger for rhythms that punctuate, whether those rhythms be seasonal, about foods, about religious holidays, or even sports teams, I want to share just a little honor for my father, who is connected to this community through Jerry and me. He joined the church triumphant in June of this year, and he was, for many, many years, the team orthopedic surgeon for the Atlanta Braves. And in the first time the Braves went to the World Series in 1995, I think that was, although I'm terrible at sports. I threatened to take my tickets away. I was with him through the series. And I'm not good at this, so I thought that they were not doing anything, and they were just standing around. So I was just reading old Wall Street Journals at that time. And he said that if I didn't improve my sports skills, that he was going to give my tickets to a more worthy recipient. In honor of all of that, we have an All Hallows Time trivia question. In honor of Dad and in honor of the victory of All Saints in the World, or All Saints of the Braves. In the World Series, and in honor of my father-in-law who's joined the church triumphant. So we have this All Hallows Time trivia question. And it's kind of embedded in that discussion we just had. To which day in the All Hallows Time trivia is the song, the hymn, I Sing a Song of the Saints of God, most appropriate? We've already talked about the church triumphant versus the saints. And so when we sing, I sing a song of the saints of God, ancient and brave and true, who toiled and fought and lived and died. For the Lord they loved and knew. And then they say things like, one was a doctor, and one was a queen, and one was a shepherdess on the green. But they're all of them saints of God. And I mean, God helping to be one too. Yes, Nick Brown.
And got to be all saints.
Yes, and?
So because he has the different people.
God helping to be 1, 2,
3. Yeah.
They live not only, they just passed us on, they're hundreds of thousands still, who toiled and fought and lived and died and loved to do Jesus' will. You can meet them in lanes or in shops or at tea, on trains or at sea. They're all of them saints of God, and I mean God help it to be one too. All Souls Day. I think it's a hybrid, really. And so that's what I want to leave you with. Is that I think that we have appropriated and indigenized and made our own this holiday, which we yearn for, like the deer longs for the water brook. Amen.